So normally when you have a World Championships in the same year as an Olympic Games, it's never quite as exciting. But this year was different, because in 2021, we'd seen Lasha just on this crazy tear. His trajectory was going up and up, and it culminated in the Olympic Games in Tokyo, and he snatched 223.
Oh, there we go.
Clean and jerk something huge as well.
Oh, you're joking!
It's done. Easy.
And so when he turned up in 2021 and he was weighing 185 kilos, you know, the biggest we'd ever seen him, one of the largest weightlifters of all time, suddenly there was this sense that, okay, actually, this might be bigger than the Olympics. This might have been a trajectory that was almost culminating here right now in Tashkent in 2021. So back in the 80s, there was this crazy battle between the super heavyweights. You had Taranenko, you had Pisarenko, you had Kurlovich. These guys who were clean and jerking over 260 regularly. You know, these guys were probably the strongest weightlifters of all time, but no one was really able to push the snatch quite as hard. You know, Pisarenko's best was 206, but we did see Antonio Krastev, the Bulgarian, make that 216, and then that lay dormant for decades. You know, guys like Hussein Rezazadeh, huge clean and jerker, 264.
But he got that one. The strongest man in the world, and he's telling you about it.
Guys like Salimi, huge snatcher, managed to make it 216 after a 214 world record way back in 2011. But really the supers had kind of dropped off ever so slightly for a few decades. Just these larger, crazy strong men hadn't been in the sport to the same extent. And then Lasha 2015, that's when he took the reins, and he's the only current weightlifter who is doing things that nobody else has ever done. Everyone else that we watch, Rahmat, Carlos, Ilya, they're doing things that we have seen lighter people do. As much as we like to pretend that that isn't the case, we've seen lighter athletes in the 80s do more. No one's done this. And with weightlifting being the world's strength sport, it's like the premier chosen, this is our sport that reflects strength. You've got powerlifting, you've got strongman, but weightlifting is the Olympic strength sport. And to have somebody come in and do something that has never been done before, it's just like the Usain Bolt of weightlifting. And bear in mind, I mean, I'd only been going to international competitions for 2.5 years at this point. So every time I saw Lasha, it was unbelievably significant to me, you know, as a fan of weightlifting. And when I saw him here, I remember just thinking, gosh, this guy's colossal. Because I think in 2019, when I first saw him, he was a big guy. He was significantly leaner. For those of you who remember, even way back in 2015, in Houston against Lovchev, you know, he's this tall guy, but he's almost lanky. He's much slimmer. Seeing him here, it was one of the first times he almost looked like, you know, he was almost like a Gore or a Manassian type of person, just scaled up much bigger. So I kind of knew, coming off the back of his performance in Tokyo and then this added size, I was like, this is it. This is the time. He'd been talking about 500 and I thought, this might be it. And then that training session, it was unbelievable being there in the room. When Lasha turns up for those heavy days, you know they're going to happen because the whole team is on edge slightly, they're apprehensive. There's this focus from the entire team, particularly the coaching staff, on Lasha. And so as he turns up and he starts warming up, we all realize, okay, this is it. This is when it's going to happen, this big training session. So we all get ourselves into position, and it was me and Nick. You know, Weightlifting House was only 4 people back then. Nick and I were there, we got our positions ready, and we started filming. And he'd never filmed Lasha before. So when he loaded up that 215, one, it was me recognizing, okay, this is the heaviest training hall snatch, pre-competition training hall snatch we've ever seen. But then also the way he did it, suddenly it dawned on me, what really can he do? 216 was Krastev's best snatch back in 1988. Salimi equaled it in 2016. Lasha had just moved at 7 kilos, and he was showing us there and then that the sky was the limit. I think maybe for the first time you suddenly start thinking, okay, 225, 4 reds aside, could actually happen. So obviously Lasha is full of unbelievable physical attributes. The visually obvious ones are that he's an enormous man. I mean, I've said this before, but most supers are relatively tall men. They're just very wide. So they look like stretched out versions of humans. Lasha looks like a normal person, but scaled up proportionally. That way, he's able to move. He moves like the smaller guys. He's quicker, he's faster. And then it's the coaching side of things. I mean, that team is set up for success, but really it's kind of set up for his success. The other athletes feed off him doing well, but so much focus is put on him. Every lift he takes in training. Georgi Asinidze, the 2004 Olympic champion, his coach is watching him, just keeps an eye on everything, gives him feedback after every single lift. And the fact that they have in their mind this number, 500. You know, we may never get there, but where we do end up is going to be somewhere astronomical that nowhere else has ever been. Having that 500 in their mind is huge for them. In every competition, you know, he did 484 in 2019, and then he did 488. And then, well, I guess you know the story, 492 is kind of where he lands up. I had seen him do 250 before in the training hall, so I knew he was capable of that. I think the thing that shocked me was that we'd never really seen him push in the clean and jerk in a competition to a crazy max. I mean, we'd seen him hit 260, 262 and it looked heavy, but he always moved fluidly. And so the question of will Lasha ever hit an all-time world record in the clean and jerk? 266 Taranenko, 1988, that almost felt like the most untouchable because he hadn't really challenged it yet. And the way he moved the 250, having just done the 215, it started to feel like maybe we're going to see him do that. Maybe that's what this added body weight is all about. Because he's always been able to snatch, but you've got to be a big man to lift big weights. Suddenly 267, that number, it starts, you know, humming around the training hall. People are talking about it. When you go back to the athlete hotel, people are talking about it in whispers. So I think the 250 definitely, it was the way he did it that got us thinking.
What I've realised that I do is that every time I start anything, I go, put out my hand to start it, but I'm going to do it again because it's what you do.
The day of the competition, we knew it was going to be a big one. The way it used to happen was that we would meet in the competition hotel dining room and have breakfast, and we'd discuss the day.
I'm going to miss how good looking the food looks. I'm not going to miss how it tastes, and that's not a controversial thing to say. The food at this hotel, I think by all accounts, has been below par by like multiple standard deviations.
And I remember being down there and Nick getting out the camera and filming me and asking me what I thought was going to happen. I don't even remember what I said, but I know that I was aware that something was going to happen because we hadn't seen Lasha compete and not really improve on what he'd done prior. So we'd seen the 488 in Tokyo. So was this going to be the 490, the 491? But we were very excited, and everybody in the whole, it seemed like everybody in Tashkent, to be honest, was excited about it, and almost everybody, it seemed, turned up because it was very busy. When the competition started, you had this band in the crowd. They're playing the drums, they've got saxophones and trumpets and brass, jazzy marching band type thing going on. You had some absolute legends there. You actually had the return of Lovchev. You had, Gormanassi, you had Vrazdat Lalian even, one of his first big international competitions. So being there and seeing it all kick off was very exciting. So then Lasha, opening attempt, it was 210 kilos. And 210 kilos on an opener, you've got to remember, a few years prior to this, if somebody snatched 210, that was like an unbelievable super heavyweight session. There's only a handful of weightlifters ever who've snatched 210 kilos. So to open there, to make it look, if anything, sharper, faster, easier than that 215 that he did in the training hall, was exciting. But I think the real moment where we knew something was going to happen was the fact that he jumped to 218. Because an 8 kilo jump in a snatch to a weight that is 2 kilos ahead of anything anyone has ever done, you just think to yourself, okay, you're using other people's best, the best the sport's ever seen, as a stepping stone into this other just stratosphere. The way the 218 moved was unbelievable. Because as soon as he's done 218, you're thinking, okay, if he's going to make an 8 kilo jump, what's the next one going to be? He's done 223. Is he going to do 224? Could he possibly do 225? The visual strength of 225 is striking because you've finally got the 4 reds on each side. And I remember when that came up on the bar. The excitement in the building, specifically from the TOs, the officials, because I think for them, they were just taken out of officiating for a moment. People have been talking about, is a 225 snatch possible, humanly possible ever? In the fullness of time, hundreds of years of training, can anybody ever snatch 225? And the answer was normally no. No one would ever do it. And for the first time, it was going to be put on the bar and it was going to be put to the test. And so suddenly it's like, oh my, we're about to see 225. The most historic snatch of all time, 4 reds on each side. And so when he went for it, and he pulled, and he caught it, and for the first time ever, I think we saw him struggle in the snatch. He catches it, and then he rocks back onto his heels, and his toes come up, and he comes up a couple of inches, and then he pauses, because he's trying to find his balance, and everyone we just stop, we just freeze. Comes back up, he's roaring, the band is going, the whole crowd goes crazy. And it was unbelievable. Then onto the clean and jerks. You know, he'd already put in this amazing stint. And so I think we thought to ourselves, okay, I mean, what's he really capable of doing here? I wasn't really even thinking 267 at this point, but I can tell you when I did first think 267. Lasha hit 240 in the back room. Now that might not sound crazy, but weightlifters don't hit 240 in the back room. Because that's too heavy to then go up and hit an opener. If you hit 240, then you've got to open up at least at minimum 245. And that's huge for a weightlifter because, you know, these big guys, they'll take 10 kilo jumps. When 247 was selected, it just all clicked. 47, 57, 67, all-time world record with the 225, 492 total, 492. And so that number for the first time, 492, it just hits me. I'm like, that's what he's gonna do. $225 is a special number. 267 is a special number. We all know it, we've all talked about, is I'm gonna do it. 492, up to that point, it didn't mean anything. It had no meaning, there was no context to it. And as soon as I realized this guy's about to beat Taranenko's 266 and hit 267, I realized that's the new number. That's the new benchmark of human performance. .492 is, you know, pushing through all limits that we've put on people that we all thought was possible that you could achieve in the strength sport. That's a new limit. And so we came out and he did it, just as I thought. 247 opening attempt, 257 second attempt. And just like the way that everybody got excited for the 225, when 267 got written in, that almost felt more historic because the snatch was his lift. He's the best snatcher ever. He might be the best weightlifter ever. He probably is, in my opinion. But the 267 was the one where it's like, is anybody going to beat Taranenko? Can anybody really beat what the Soviets were doing in the 80s? And that is the hardest lift I've ever seen him do in his life. That's the first time where he looks like he's at a max strength-wise. It was a grind in the clean to stand up with it. And he dropped the bar, and suddenly, I don't know what happened. It was like everyone went into a panic, and it was red, red, white. It was just no lift. And we're all just looking around, just thinking, what has happened? I mean, you can't take this away from us. We've just seen the heaviest lift of all time. Throughout all human history, people have picked up stones, manhood stones they're called, across all cultures, put them overhead. It means something in the world of humans. No one's ever done it with this much weight. This is a humankind world record. And he's just done it, and he's got 2 reds. And I remember Lasha looked at the judges, the whole crowd starts yelling. Suddenly it flicked to whites, and the place just erupted. And that was it. I mean, 225, best snatch of all time, 267, the greatest clean and jerk of all time. .492, the pinnacle of human performance. And it was a very special day. It meant a lot to the weightlifting world. And to go from there to where we are now is amazing. So I've always said, like, the 500 it almost doesn't mean anything. It was like this number that he had in his mind to shoot for. He always wanted it, but I think it meant something else. And I really like the phrase, shoot for the moon, and if you miss, you end up amongst the stars. 500 was the moon, and he shot for it, and he didn't make it, but he ended up with 492, and that's a real number. 500, maybe someone in a few years is going to do that, but for now, there's nothing as special as 492.